Welcome to Soul Synergy Network, your sanctuary for soul-centered conversations, healing insights, and whole person wellness. I'm your host, Dr. Irma Elisheva Diaz, and today's episode is one that touches every one of us, especially in these restless, overburdened times. We're exploring the delicate line between escapism and rest. Why? Because not everything that looks like rest is actually restorative, and not everything that feels like escape is necessarily harmful. But knowing the difference can change your life. So let's begin. The call to rest in a world that never stops. We live in a culture that glorifies hustle and productivity. We wear exhaustion like a badge of honor. Even our breaks are filled with noise and numbness. So when the soul finally cries out for rest, what do? We binge watch. We overeat. We overshop. We disconnect. We flee to distraction instead of restoration. And yet, underneath it all, what we really crave is reconnection. Reconnection with ourselves, with God, with our breath, with purpose, with family, with friends. So let's first define what we're talking about. What is escapism? Escapism is avoidance wrapped in comfort. I'm going to say that again. Escapism is avoidance wrapped in comfort. It can look like overindulging in entertainment to drown out your feelings, or constant busyness to avoid your own thoughts, or overconsumption of food, substances, or media. It can look like excessive sleeping, not for rest, but to escape your life, or spiritual bypassing, using faith to deny pain rather than heal it. Escapism says, I don't want to feel this. I can't face this, so let me numb it. It's not inherently evil. Sometimes it's a survival tool, certainly. But it becomes dangerous when it becomes our default. Because what we avoid ends up festering. And what you numb still lives in your life, waiting to be healed. One of the worst culprits in escapism that gives us pseudo-rest. And it brings us to this thing called denial. What is denial in escapism? Denial, in its most basic form, is the refusal to accept a painful truth. Escapism is how we dress that denial up. We don't say, I'm hurting or I'm overwhelmed. Instead, we say, I just need a break. Or, I'm fine, just tired. Or, I don't want to talk about it. Or, I'll deal with it later. And so we escape. We hide in food. We, as I said earlier, binge another series on Netflix. We overcommit to people and projects. We drown in distractions. But underneath it all, something sacred is trying to surface. Denial is the soul's alarm system. Escapism is the hand that hits the snooze button. Why do we choose denial? We don't deny because we're weak. We deny because some truths feel too big for us to hold right now. It's too much. So the easy thing to do is to slip into denial, escapism, whatever that looks like. We deny because of those things, that the relationship is dying, that grief is still lingering, that we're running on fumes, that something has to change. And if we've never learned how to sit with pain, we learn how to run from it naturally. Nobody wants to sit with pain. But here's the truth. What we deny doesn't disappear. It embeds. It goes deeper into the body. It burrows into the nervous system. That's where trauma comes from, you know? It becomes tension, fatigue, and emotional distance. And eventually, denial will demand to be seen. So there is a cost of living in denial. When denial becomes chronic, we begin to lose access to our emotional truths. And when we lose our truths, we lose authentic connection. We lose self-awareness. We lose intuition and the opportunity to heal. Denial keeps you safe from the pain temporarily, but it also keeps you separated from your soul. Because healing never begins in avoidance. It begins in honesty. So if you're listening right now and wondering, am I escaping something I need to face? Be gentle, yes. It's not a call to judge yourself, but it's an invitation to check in with yourself. Ask yourself, what part of me am I refusing to feel? What am I afraid will happen if I stop distracting myself? Can I sit with this for just a moment without numbing it? You don't have to tackle it all at once, but you can begin to whisper back to your soul. Guide yourself back. I hear you now. I'm not running this time. Bottom line, rest cannot come without reality, and healing cannot come until there's revelation. I'm going to say that again. Healing cannot come until there's revelation. We have to name what we're feeling. We have to name what we're carrying. We have to name what we're struggling with. And once we have that revealed to us, that's when healing can begin. But if you keep hiding it, and if you keep, just burying it, healing can't come to that. So when there's rest, it says, I'm worthy of this pause, even if nothing is done. I tend to myself, not to avoid, but to restore myself. I need to be restored. It may look like quiet prayer or contemplation. It may look like time in nature without an agenda. You go outside, you look at the beauty of the sky, you hear the birds, you look at the mountains, all of these things you do in nature without any agenda. You're not thinking about what you want to accomplish in it. You're just sitting there basking in nature. That's healing. Maybe taking a long bath with no noise, or sleep that honors your body's rhythm because you need it so desperately. Time away, not to run from life, but to return to life with more presence. Real rest allows healing. It doesn't disconnect you from your life. It brings you back to it, and it makes things clearer for you. There are key differences in escapism versus rest. Escapism is different. Rest causes you to feel more alive. Escapism causes you to feel more disconnected. It's a compass. So we have to pause and ask ourselves, am I escaping from what I need to face and calling it rest? Because it's not rest. Sometimes escapism is a red flag. It signals that something inside of us is overstretched, overburdened, or in pain. The key is that instead of judging our escapes, we need to get curious about them. Sometimes curiosity is the best way to help ourselves, because we got to figure out what we're going through, what we're feeling, why we're doing what we're doing or not doing what we're not doing. And we ask ourselves, what am I really needing right now? What part of me is asking to be held, not silenced? So let's explore practical ways to return to rest. Micro-rests, micro-sabbaths, like taking 5 or 10 minutes a day to sit in silence, to breathe, and let your body relax. I do that lots of times. I just go to my room and sit in my recliner and I don't turn on the TV, and I just sit there. I just sit there and my body relaxes. And sometimes I get interrupted by a phone call or something, and it's not necessary to take a nap, but I know that when I do that, I get up from my recliner and I go to the house and I feel so much better. They're micro-sabbaths, micro-rests. Then there's digital fasting. Choose one day a week to unplug and be present to your life. That one's fast. That one's hard because if you're working and you need to be online, that's hard to do if you're working. But let's say you can take a Saturday morning with your coffee and say, from the time I wake up in the morning to sundown, I'm not going to touch my computer and I'm not going to be looking at my text. Will I answer the phone? Yeah, but I'm not going to be, on this. These are digital fasts, and they, believe it or not, these things help. I'm not going to lie to you and say I do them. I'm going to say to you that I know they help, and I know we have to get there. The way that life is going nowadays, we have to get there. Say yes to less. Rest starts by saying no to what depletes you. So when somebody's asking you to do something and you know that it's going to drain you, don't say yes. Don't do it, right? Ask yourself, where in my life am I escaping instead of resting? What does my body really need right now? It's worth asking. It's worth being curious. How can I make space for sacred rest, even in small moments? What would change if I honored rest as holy, as part of the way, if you're a person of faith, is the way that you look at prayer. You just look at what is needed for you. You're not being lazy. You're asking yourself, what am I afraid to feel? What am I pretending not to know? What do I sense but haven't admitted yet, even to myself? So remember, you don't need to earn rest. You don't need to explain why you're tired. You don't need to keep running. You're allowed to stop, to breathe, to listen to your soul's whisper. Let this be your permission slip, not to escape, but to return to yourself, to peace, to presence. Because when rest is sacred, you don't abandon life. You awaken to it. I hope these things help you. They're all things that I call them food for thought, because all of us are struggling at one time or another with what we carry in life. We have to learn the difference. We don't want to escape. We want to hold it, and we want to not deny it, but we want to hold it, look at it, look at everything like a flag, because that's what it's doing. It's flagging you. Here's what you need to do. Here's what you're doing that's not helpful. Hopefully these things will help you. Share these things with others. And until next time, be gentle with yourself, be grounded, be restoring. And know that I appreciate being able to share with you. And I encourage you to subscribe. I encourage you to visit our website. You'll see all of that information on the screen. Take time for yourself in this busy world that we're in. And God bless you.